I thought we'd start in this session today announcing the emphasis, which is a warming practice for cold weather, as we're in not even quite winter, but it's turned quite cold here. So it'll have elements of working on strength, and also we'll start with a breathing exercise, which is a little bit fiery. You might want to have some tissues nearby for that, because it's going to clear our sinuses. And I have a lovely quote I came across, and I think it relates to yoga generally, and maybe especially the practice today. And it goes like this. If you want to master a habit, and we're talking about good habits, not the negative ones, the key is to start with repetition, not perfection. So what that says to me is that if you want to have a yoga practice, for instance, a regular yoga practice, then the key to doing that is to have it be consistent. We're not aiming necessarily for perfection or presenting our yoga as a performance, but just that constancy in it. So if you would take time to have a seat on your mat in a comfortable position. I have my tissue box here. And we'll do a breathing exercise that emphasizes using the abdominal muscles. And it's with a exhalation that's sharp and punctuated. So I'll just demonstrate first, and I'll do a few rounds. So it's an inhalation full. And we'll do this together, and let's do 10 rounds like that. So I'm going to keep my hands over the abdomen, one above my navel, one below, just to remind me of working from this area on the exhalations. Shoulders are relaxed, face is relaxed, and we'll do 10 rounds together. Just slowly. Good. And let's just give that a break. And I think we'll do a set of 3 of these. So we've done 1. And then another 10 rounds. And a little break to consolidate, shoulders relaxed. And last set. And then pause and allow your natural breathing to come back. I find that quite warming. We're going to take a lying down warming up part of the practice. So if you would lie on your back on your mat. And have next to you a block and a yoga strap. And then once you're settled, let's practice apanasana, which is the perfect way to warm up. this lower abdominal area and stimulate the apana vayu. So bring your knees towards your chest. Actually, in my practice this week, I've been using a block placed between my knees, just above my knees onto my thighs, and then working with the block with just a really light pressure against it. And it feels like it opens my sitting bones a little bit and allows for more internal rotation through my legs. So on the exhalation, bringing your thighs towards your chest. On the inhalation, moving the knees away. You can hold at the front of your knees. That increases my hip flexion. Or just be hands-free, that's up to you. So exhaling and feeling that through the organs of elimination, abdominal organs. And as you're bringing your thighs towards your ribs, see if you can be moving your sitting bones towards the floor. And that simple adjustment allows me to have a little bit more space for my sacrum and that internal rotation. Let's go one more, knees towards you, and then slip the block out. And take up your yoga strap, and I'm going to have a loop on mine. I've already done that. So that when I place that loop over my legs and bind just above my knees, I'm ready for some support for doing bridge pose. Have enough room for an overarm stretch behind you. But we'll start with just arms by your side, that hip-width distance on the belt, and bringing a little tension onto the belt, pressing out. And feel your 2 feet onto the floor and ground them a little bit more through the big toe side of your foot. Press your big toe down, press your inner heel down. And as you've done that, then you begin the start of the lift of the hips up away from the floor. So pelvis lifts up. Add the arm movement and lift the arms up and overhead. And then exhale, bring your arms down, bring your pelvis back to the floor. Let's go for a few rounds like that, where we've got the belt to press out against and the pressure on the inside of your feet. And as we go along, articulating the spine in both directions, lifting up and coming down. So I find it easier to press out against the belt than to anchor my feet, but we want to do that with equal pressure. So pressing inside of your feet and out against the belt. And feel my hamstrings working, the backs of my thighs. And let's go just one more round where when the arms are overhead, we'll create a cross stretch, the thighs moving away from the torso, the arms stretching away from the torso as well. Beautiful. And then come all the way down from upper spine, mid-spine, lower spine, and resting, and without any need for your belt. Next, we're going to do a little series called Supta Padangustasana, and I'm going to move to a wall space just to have my feet against the wall. So You might want to do that too. And lying now with your legs straight out and your feet against the wall and legs together. Keep your strap nearby. We'll use it again. And when you settle into your prone position here, or sorry, supine position, I should say, let's work with straight legs. And press into your left foot and bend your right knee into your chest. Slip your belt over your right foot. And then extend your right leg. And we're not going for maximum extension necessarily, so you might still have a little knee bend. And taking up the belt with, I'm using both hands at the moment, and bring the right thigh bone right back into the hip joint. And maybe you can palpate and feel the top of the right thigh settling and firmly into the hip socket. And that's a really beautiful movement. And then work with extending the leg as much as you wish at the moment, as much as your body will allow. We're still in the warm-up phase. And then let's move into the variation, taking your right leg to the right side. And even here, not necessarily straightening the leg completely, but working with the quadricep, the front thigh muscle, and feeling that front thigh muscle engaged and holding the leg firmly into the hip. I'm going to hold the belt into my left hand as I take my right leg to the right, just to emphasize the left side of my body. So there's my left shoulder blade, my left hip, my left waist pressing down as the right leg tracks to the right. And then that's probably enough, and bringing the leg all the way up to the center position. Now if I switch the belt, this is a different way of working, to my right hand, and then track the right leg over to the left, I'm reminded to keep the right side of my body onto the floor. So not even lifting my right hip here, but emphasizing the strength of the right thigh into the hip socket. All right, let's come center and release that leg. And take a moment, just consolidate both feet at the wall and feel the work that you did in the right leg, right hip, right leg muscles. And then let's start on the left side. Keep your right foot pressing into the wall as much as possible. Keep that right leg long and flexing the left knee and bringing up your belt again. Left foot, extend the left leg. Got a two-hand grip onto the belt, and this is a stiffer side for me, so with a great deal of kindness, extending the leg comfortably, and with that emphasis of strength in the left thigh, the upper thigh especially, down into the hip socket. And taking a few breaths more there in extending the leg. And then take left leg left. Hold the belt into your right hand. And keep the right side of your body grounded. So the core muscles will work to help you do that, especially as you press back on your right hip. And bringing that leg to center and changing directions, and left leg coming over to the right side. It's a stretch for the outer hip muscles, the IT band, extending the leg. I'm holding with my um, left hand, keeping the left side of my body onto the floor. And then up front and center with that left leg and releasing it to the floor and both legs resting there. Just for a moment, soften the leg muscles, soften the buttock muscles, and feel the work. Maybe you'll feel a little more circulation through the whole of your legs. All right, last of all, and it never goes astray, we'll do a floor twist here. Keep your left leg straight and bend up your right knee towards you. Right arm out to the right side. Reach over with your left hand and hold the outside of your right knee. And then let's take the right knee to the left. I'm going to let my left foot roll out, my left hip roll out, and right leg over. Good. And then come back to center and let's swap. And first the flexion, left knee towards your left chest. Right hand holds on the outside of your left knee. Let's bring that leg across the body. So you're lifting the pelvis this time and turning the wall foot out, right foot out. Bring that leg over. Good. And instead of coming back to center this time, and because we're coming onto all fours anyway, just roll right over onto the left side. Use your hands to help you roll up to a kneeling position onto your mat. Something we call cow pose these days. Now, if you need to make an arrangement for your knees, a little bit more padding, doubling up your mat or so, or if kneeling is not available to you, you can do this same sequence on your hands onto a chair. So standing and facing a chair, your hands onto a chair. And let's do those couple of movements where we lift the spine and drop the spine and move through flexion, spine up, extension, spine down, forward bending, just slight backward bending. With the breath. All right, and then let's add a movement. So balancing your weight onto your hands and onto your left knee, lift your right knee, bring it into your chest, and then extend the leg back behind you. Lift your chest and look out as you lift that leg. Look down, knee towards you as you exhale. One more leg extension, and then replacing the right knee to the floor. Pause and consolidate and center. And then let's work through that. It's an abdominal strengthening movement. It works your core muscles on the left leg. So lifting your left knee towards you, left leg away. You can make these movements as strong or even more relaxed as you work through the core muscles. Last leg extension, and then both knees onto the floor. And let's take a rest break for your wrists. So bringing your elbows down. You can come back into child's pose, buttocks to heels if you like. but keep your forearms supported, and then turn your palms up towards the ceiling. Turn your palms up towards the ceiling, giving yourself a little wrist rotation. Open your fingers, open your thumbs. And then let's come back to kneeling on all fours. And because we're staging this, you can work through just the variations of cat-cow, lifting and lowering your spine. And if you like, we'll add another strengthening movement here. So as you lift your right knee and bring your right knee towards your chest, lift your left hand and bend your left elbow and bring your left elbow in. Extend both limbs, opposite limbs, and then exhale, bring them back to center in flexion. Inhale, extension. Exhale, flexion. Woo. And one more. And releasing and supporting yourself again. And you could see my movement was a bit wobbly there. It's a little hard sometimes talking and doing movements at the same time. However, where this comes from is your core muscles. So be sure to engage these muscles to help support you in the second side as we go into the second side. So lifting your left knee and then knee towards your chest and lifting your right hand and elbow towards your ribs. Inhale, extend out. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale, extend out. Exhale, pull it in. One side might be much stronger and more stable than the other. That's very common. One more round, extension, and coming to ground. And a well-deserved child's pose, if that works easily for you at the moment. But in any case, let's do the wrist rotation and extension. So forearms supported, palms open. Good. And then from here, downward facing dog pose. And then we've done a little work in hamstring extension, but in any case, just here with the first dog pose, keep your knees a little bit flexed, keep your heels up, and stretch through your shoulders. Now we're going to move into cat pose, but not quite. So bending your knees towards the floor, not quite reaching the floor. Let's call this a hover. You're just hovering off the ground. And then back to downward facing dog pose. So we're making some demands on your strength and the spirit of keeping the body nice and warm and moving through those two movements. Knees near to the floor, not quite touching, and then downward facing dog pose, knees not quite straight. And then last one, in the little hover just above the ground, lift your chest, open your chest forward, and then finally the dog pose, take a walk forward or walk your hands back and inhale and come all the way up to standing. So you've done some really good work in strengthening movements. We've done an emphasis on leg work, which we'll take into some other poses later on. Just got to do a little wardrobe adjustment here. Uh-huh. My microphone is not behaving well. All right. Yes, so we did strengthening movements. We're going to do some mobility movements for your dorsal thoracic. So I love these movements. I can feel them in my upper back. And it's a part of the body where, especially as we get older, we tend to drop the chest and develop a more stooped posture. So here, take a stance where your feet are a little bit apart. You feel stable in your feet, in your standing position, and then bring your arms up to, we've been calling this cactus position, your elbows in line with your shoulders. And if you tip your forearms back a little bit without bringing your elbows forward, just see if you can sense that in your upper part of your back. It's just easily felt in my shoulder blades. And then let's move through the potential movement to bring your hands down and your elbows up, more like a scarecrow. And then let's go back and do that again. Let's say exhale, tipping the arms back. Exhale, bringing them forward and down. Good. Or whatever breathing pattern works for you here. And the main thing is we're just trying to see what is our range of movement here. Good. And then after that little bit of work, bring the arms down by your side. Give your wrists a shake out and your elbows a shake out. Lovely. And then back to cactus. Another possible movement to increase your mobility is a rotation. So let's say we look to the left side and then keep the elbow in the same position, the left elbow, but bring the right arm around as though you could meet your hands, and not quite, and then bringing the elbow back into original position. So just rotating from the dorsothoracic, but the lower spine is rotating too. So you're bringing your right hip forward and around, and then coming back to starting position. And as we work through this, just feel that in your upper part of your back. So the spread of your back in rotation. And one more. Go at it. And then pausing in center position. Second side, and bringing your hand around to as though you were going to meet its mate. And unrolling and rotating, and your hip comes forward as you bring your hand around. And then let's pause in the very center and release the arms again. Good, with a little bit of a shake out. All right, and then another really lovely movement, and I find this is a way that my spine likes to move. If you bring your left hand onto your back of your neck, just at the base of your skull, so your elbows bent and pointing up towards the ceiling, then do a lean over to the right side. So the straight arm is lengthening down. And then inhale and come up. Let's do that a few more times. Opening up the side body, the waist, the ribs. And once more. And you might consider that you've done a baseline for that side and how that's working. And release. And then the right hand behind the base of your skull. And then a little lean over to the left side, elbow up. And what's it like on this side in that lateral movement? Sometimes one side learns from the other as you go along. Good. And all the way up. and releasing the arms down. Okay, very good work. Then let's take a position now at your wall space. And let's call this chair pose at the wall. So just have your torso resting against the wall and your feet away from the wall by about what distance? Say 35 or 40 centimeters. Then rest your hands onto your front thigh muscles and take a little knee bend. So my feet are apart, my knees are apart. And if you get an angle of about, definitely not 90 degrees, less than, an obtuse angle behind your knees. And then feel your thigh muscles and the way that they have to work to support you here. And then straightening your legs. Come into your little knee bend again. So as I was saying, a small knee bend. But then just test the water. And what's it like if you come down more towards that right angle in terms of how the thigh muscles are working? Can you feel how much harder they work and all the way up to the hip crease? And then we won't stay there. Come back up again. Next time we do this, we'll hold for a little bit longer. So adjust your knee bend to whatever works for you. I'm going to come down a little bit lower. I think my thigh muscles are pretty strong here. My knees are pretty strong. And the arms just loose by your side. Or in fact, bring your arms up straight, palms facing in, and feel into your dorsal thoracic again. The two shoulder blades, are they evenly on the wall? And then lowering your arms slowly and sliding up the wall. And take a distance from the wall. We're not going to quite abandon the wall support yet. Let's do one more variation. So back to chair at the wall. Find your optimum distance, but then step your feet all the way together. Bring your knees all the way together. And then let's lift the right heel. And then take stock of how that feels in the leg work, lifting the right heel. And then lifting the left heel. So far the torso stayed stable and in the center when you've done that. And then let's go in succession. Right heel up, left heel up. Right heel, left heel. So you're doing a little marching in place. And then stop in the center position, both heels down. And then a progression here is to lift your right foot slightly off the floor. Now, as soon as I do that, now replacing your right foot, there was a lean to one side. So is it possible for you to keep your hip center, your stable position at the wall, and now lift the left foot? So I'm noticing one side is much easier than the other. And replacing that foot. Good pause. Center yourself. And then in progression, we could do one more movement here. When you lift your right foot, see if it's there for you to extend that leg. And replacing your foot. Good. Steady balance. I tipped a little bit. I'm going to right my balance back to center. And then that left foot comes up. It's a progression, so you can stay with an earlier stage and then extend out your left leg if possible. And both feet on the floor. And happily coming up all the way and stepping away from the wall. Take a little walk around so that you know that you can still do that easily. Your body is supporting you completely. And then let's take this work that we did into Uttita Hasta Padangustasana. So you did a version of this when you were lying down, the supine version. I'm going to have a belt handy for this, which I'm likely to use, that looped belt. And I'm also still back at the wall with the wall support, if I need it. So without premeditating or anticipating what we're doing, we're just in the stance where Tadasana. So feel your footing, your two lovely footprints, right foot, left foot. My feet are a little bit apart. It seems to give me better space for my pelvis and my sacrum. Shoulders relaxed. And then switch the balance of your weight to your right foot and lift your left heel and bring then your left knee towards your left side of your chest. There's a point where there's resistance and I can't lift any higher, but if I hold the front of my knee, I can increase my hip flexion, but at the same time I want to lengthen the standing leg from the hip to the heel. So there I am, one-legged standing, holding my knee. And then from there, take the looped belt around the left foot and extend the left leg out. I am leaning against the wall, but I'm going to flirt with freestanding, so moving a little bit further away from the wall. And then that's probably enough, and bending the knee in again, slip the belt off, and release left leg down. Steady standing, both feet supporting you. And let's go second side. My left leg is my weight-bearing leg now. Taking support, right knee up, and hold at the front of the knee to increase the hip flexion. Actually, you're bringing the leg a little nearer to you, so it's easier to catch your foot. And holding onto your strap. And see how you go to extend the leg. Keep the standing leg soft behind the knee and use the quadricep that we were building strength into in the previous poses. And standing up tall. And then just under control, bending that leg in, slip the belt off, and 2 feet on the floor. Uttita Hasta Padangustasana, the fancy Sanskrit name, long Sanskrit name, I've always thought was a misnomer because it translates as big toe pose. However, we can give the big toe a try here. You can stay with the belt and stay with the wall for support. But let's see whether we can do that. So balancing on my right leg again, left knee towards my chest. I'm going to keep that knee high and reach forward in flexion and hold my big toe. Not quite sure what's going to happen after this, but if I can, then extending that left leg. So you, by all means, use the belt if you need to, but it depends on your anatomy too. So you may never be able to extend your leg completely, and that's fine. And then bend your knee in and take Tadasana, 2 feet on the ground, settle. Pelvis is nice and even, shoulders are nice and even. Now feel the long left leg support you now and start to bend up your right knee towards you. Maybe on this side you'll have the belt holding the foot, or see if you can grab your big toe. The knee has to be quite high and then extending the leg as best you can. And excellent work. And bending that leg down and 2 feet on the ground. Take a moment, consolidate, bring yourself into a calm space, and then take a little walk again. Shake out your ankles, shake out your knees, shake out your hips if you like. And as long as we've done balancing pose there, we might take that into another balancing pose called Ardha Chandrasana. And for Ardha Chandrasana, you'll need a block. And I'll show you the version that I'm doing in today's session. We'll do Trikonasana first with one foot against the wall. So if you bring your left heel to the wall and your right foot's turned out, then you're prepared for moving into the balancing pose, Ardha Chandrasana, with your foot on the wall. So let me show you that. Trikonasana, we're very familiar with. Ardha Chandrasana using the wall and the block. Requires a little leap of faith there. So when you take your position with your foot on the wall, the main thing there is that your distance needs to be right. So I got it pretty well handled on the first go. But if you're too close to the wall, then you're going to feel crowded and you won't be able to get your foot up the wall. If you're too far away from the wall, then you might miss the wall completely. So play a little bit with getting your best distance from the wall. And as I was saying, let's take Trikonasana first. So I've got my left heel at the wall at the skirting board, my right foot turned out 90 degrees. Extend your right arm out towards the center of the room. Take a breath in, extend out, allow the left hip to roll forward. Bring your right hand to your right shin bone and your left arm above your left shoulder. So we did a little work in lateral extension in the earlier warm-ups to feel the side body extending. Lift your tailbone. I find that to be such a great anatomical adjustment. And then inhale and come up. We're going to stay on this side, on the right side, and we're ready to move into Ardha Chandrasana. You tested your distance, so you're ready to fly here. And it's very nice when you bend your right leg to keep the 2 feet on the ground initially. So all you're going to do is slide your left foot in towards your right foot, reach your hand onto the block on the high end, and then place your left foot on the wall at hip height. Or lower, no higher than hip height. So I got there. It's also a lateral extension here, so the right rib stretching out towards the block. And you keep your left hand on your left hip if it promotes your balance, but otherwise extending the left arm up. I'm looking straight forward, not rotating my neck. And then flex your right knee. Look for the floor with your left foot. Slide it back and inhale and come up. And we're ready for the second side. And so you don't have my back to you. I'll come on to the other position. So it was right leg balancing, left leg balancing this time. Is that right? No, sorry. Yes, left leg balancing. So Set yourself up for Trikonasana first, and also trial your distance. Is that a happy distance for you? So that was a little too close to the wall, so I'm stepping out more. All right. So first part, triangle pose. Inhale and exhale, and reaching the arms away from each other, reaching the right heel back to the wall. Lift the tailbone. Good, breathe. Broaden the shoulders, feel into your dorsal thoracic. And then right hand, right hip. Let's move and slide the right foot out on the floor a little bit before you're ready to lift that foot onto the wall. And then take off and see how you go here. Right foot to the wall. I'm going to move my block out a little bit farther away from my left foot. It lines up with my left foot little toe. And then looking straight forward the same way that my front chest faces. Even here, lift your tailbone. And coming down in a controlled way, if you can, to Trikonasana. And up. And well done and good work. And stepping forward. Ah. All right. In the spirit of this being a warming practice, we're going to do a few back bends. And what you'll need is a bolster. So we'll do a propped version of a back bending warm-up with the bolster. And this is an opportunity for us to work not so much the lower part of our spine, but the upper part of our spine in a supported way. So I'm going to take a prone position, lying face down on the bolster. So my whole torso is supported onto the bolster. And where I land is my pubic bone is right at the edge of the bolster. So if I place my weight onto my forearms like this, like Sphinx pose, there's a really gentle extension of my spine. If I extend my arms out, I can feel that dorsal thoracic a little bit in the stretch in the shoulder blades. But as I begin to lift my head and my chest and pull my hands back, and you can try this, the opening is greater in the upper part of my back. So like, what should we call this? Like a cobra with your arms forward. And then let the top of your sacrum sink a little bit. And feel the tailbone not towards the floor, but lifting and moving away from the torso. And then, if you like, take a little bit stronger stretch and opening through the front chest, and feel that in the dorsal thoracic again. Good. And you've done some lovely work to create a chest opening that's supported. Lower your elbows and come down and just rest for a moment. And let's do that for one more time. As you extend your arms forward and begin to lift up your chest, this time pay a little more attention to your legs and lift your knees off the floor. Press the little toe side of your foot. Turn your thighs in and come up any amount. As you move your hands towards you and lift your chest more, there's a greater opening through the back chest to the front chest. Feel the shoulder blades supporting the lungs. And then lower down. And we've taken some lessons from using the bolster for working through the upper part of the back. Let's take the bolster away now and lie prone once more, straight along your mat. Let's start Sphinx style again, with your elbows next to your ribs and your hands facing directly forward. Support all of your weight onto your forearms. Feel your wrists press down, your elbows press down. And then work your legs. So separate your legs. Give space for your sacrum. Feel the top of your sacrum sinking down. Your weight's on your pubic bone. And then inhale and come up a little bit. Draw your chest forward. And feel what you learned from using the bolster, the shoulder blades coming in towards the front chest. Keep pressing forward. The elbows still drawing in towards you. And then exhale, lower down. So if we move from here in a progression, we can go to Cobra pose. Slide your elbows back a little bit. And your elbows are going to stay next to your ribs. Can you feel, when you do that, to squeeze the armpits a little bit so that the shoulders stay down and back? Then strengthen the legs. Press the tops of your feet. Your knees will lift up a little bit away from the floor. Instead of your tailbone moving towards the floor, move it out away from the torso and begin to come up a little bit. Or a little bit more. And then lowering down. And this time fold your arms and rest your hands one on top of the other. Rest your forehead onto your hands or the side of your head onto your hands. And just take a few quiet breaths. So we won't spend a lot of time on each of the back bending movements, and we'll just keep moving through. And the next one that we'll do is bow pose. So bend your legs and bring your heels towards your buttocks. And then reach one hand back and then the second hand back. And at this point, you haven't lifted up at all as yet. So you're just holding the front of your ankles, shoulders back. And then think about it before you move. If you lift your head and your chest, you can feel that work in the dorsal thoracic again. The chest lifting up and forward, and the tailbone moving out and away from you. And then you may begin to start to lift the thighs. And the trouble with breathing in bow pose, and we'll just hold it for one or two more breaths, is that you're resting on your diaphragm. And you can hear that in my voice delivery. And then coming down and resting the legs back and releasing the arms. Not going anywhere just yet. We'll have one more go with an emphasis on lifting up in bow pose. One more time and reaching back. Now do no more than lift your tailbone a little bit here and lift your head, lift your chest, roll your shoulders back, shoulder blades coming closer together, and then finally, to whatever extent lifting your thighs, your quadriceps are stretching this time from your knee to your hip and lifting up and going up and then releasing. And once your hands let go, support your hands underneath your head again and let your legs drop back. Take a moment in this prone position. Such a lovely position to be in just generally. Lying on your belly, having the support for the diaphragm and the belly. And from here, we're going to counterpose and come back to the wall in a standing position, back to the wall. So here we've got our wall support and taking a few steps forward away from the wall. Don't worry, we're not doing chair pose again. We'll do a stretch for the hamstrings. So rest your hands onto your front thighs. Move the torso away from the wall. Your buttocks are supported on the wall. And then allow your hands to slide down your legs. Tops of your knees, your shin bones. And without flexing the spine forward, we're going to keep it extended out away from the wall. And treat this as a stretch for the backs of your thighs. The hamstrings were working in those back bends. Feel the torso telescoping away from the wall. And what might be happening along the way is the buttock bones are lifting slightly up the wall, sliding up the wall. Keep a little knee bend. And in the next few breaths, come down as much, or maybe you landed at the place where you want to keep the stretch, or if you like, just coming down as much as you like. All right. And then to release, bend your knees. Use your hands to push away from the wall and come all the way up to standing. Grab your block. And let's do a standing rotation for your spine after your back bending movements, after everything that we've done in the class. Take up your block on the high end and place it out in front of your left foot. And stay down, head down, and reach your left hand to the top of the block. Heel of the hand on the top of the block. You want that block at a distance where it feels like you can open up your ribs all along your left side. You're getting a really nice stretch to your waist. And then take your right hand and the flat of your right hand, bring it around and place it on the outside of your left knee or the outside of your calf muscle. And let your head hang low. Flex your right elbow. When you look at your right forearm, you're moving your right elbow towards the floor. And then turn towards the left side. Duck your head down. Look to the left side. Bring the right shoulder blade around. Beautiful. And then, without even coming up this time, save energy. Bring your hand onto the block. Right hand on the top of the block. Lean out. Rest your hand there. And then look underneath the right arm to the right. Left hand, grasp with a firm grasp onto your calf muscle, right calf muscle. Bend that elbow, lower down. And then see where you're looking to the right side. Come around a little bit more underneath that arm. Lift the top buttocks up towards the ceiling. Good. And then back to center. Bend your knees. Rest your hand onto your thighs. Inhale and come all the way up to standing and standing upright. And you've done a really great warming practice. We're going to take time to relax now and we want to incorporate an inversion. So find that wall space again, and you're going to have your legs up the wall. I'm going to balance on a bolster, so I've got a little bit more elevation for my hips. If you are using a bolster against the wall, have a 4-finger width away from the wall. So if you measure that gap, that's where your buttocks can drop down a little bit. Take a covering for your eyes if that is something that helps you relax more, because you'll be here for a few minutes. When you worked into several backbends through the session today, you were using your hamstrings at the backs of your legs. So let's start with splits. So have enough room to separate your legs, slide your heels out away from each other. So your legs at the wall in the splits. The legs roll outwards. And whether you've closed your eyes or not, see if you can sense and feel the stretch through the groins. And as much as possible, we want it to be even, which probably means that the heels may or may not be at the same height. Ideally, the heels are at the same height, so the groin stretch is relatively even. And sometimes what will happen is the legs will keep dropping out until it almost creates an unpleasant, like an overstretch through the groins and the inside of the knees. So let's take the pressure off now, and with your hands on the outside of the legs, begin to lift your legs back up to the vertical. Join your legs together in the traditional legs up the wall. And then do a mental check-in throughout the whole body, from your feet, your heels where they're supported onto the wall, the ankles supported so relaxed, the knees soft behind them, the upper legs stretched but not tensed. Let go the weight of the pelvis into the floor or the soft prop. Let go your belly muscles from your pubis to your sternum, out to the sides. So the belly feels like a soft hammock of muscles. Take a couple of releasing exhalations for the diaphragm. Relax your chest muscles, your shoulders. The front neck, the base of your throat, and all of your facial features. And just to complete legs up the wall, bring your hands across the navel center. And feel your own breath there. Soft breathing. And then what you might do to release from the pose is start to let your heels slide down, roll over onto one side. We're not in a hurry at all, and using your hands to support you in coming up. And then take a seated position onto your mat. Draw the sitting bones back and out a little bit. Give yourself a better seat. Rest your hands onto your legs. Close your eyes lightly, and to consolidate everything that we've done today, relax your face, your eyes especially. Let your shoulders drop down and out. Come back to the sensation of breathing in the diaphragm, in the belly. And then bring your hands into prayer position and place them center chest. And feel your breath there too. Incline your head towards your chest. Really, we think in terms of bowing towards the heart center, where we fund the special energy from the practice, the warmth of the practice. And the energy is one of kindness, goodness, and love. And where we fund that energy, we can share with our larger communities, with our global communities even. And so we say namaste. Thank you.